Okay, well, I mean, this is a surprise live. I did not have this one planned. I just had a few minutes and I thought I would hop on here. I don't know if anyone's going to join us. I also don't know why YouTube told me to have it vertical as opposed to horizontal. Normally, I have my camera horizontal, so tell me if it looks weird because I'll turn it. I don't care. It just told me that I need to do it vertical. So I don't know if they're trying to be more like TikTok or what. Um, I see that we have some people here, which is nice. Chester, Trish, Heidi, and Maggie. So Heidi is here. I remember Heidi. She's a dedicated follower of my stuff. And of course, Maggie is as well. So good. It looks good. Maggie says it looks okay. It looks fine. I think it's a little weird, but I'm totally fine with it if you're fine with it. But I don't really have anything exciting happening. I was just going to kind of jump on and do some answering of some questions if people have questions. And if they don't, then that's fine too. All right, Trish says it looks good so far. Okay. Good. Look, now Heidi says looks weird, but fine. That could be me. It could just be that I'm the subject of the video that's what makes it look weird. But I can at least show you some interesting stuff, which it may not be that interesting to you, but I've been drawing a lot of anatomy lately. So this is the book, Grant's Dissector. Yeah, this is the book. Well, actually, I see people now, they're saying, no, it looks terrible. So what if let's see, orientation. Okay, let me try something here. Now, let me try this. Does this? No, it's not letting me. It's not letting me change the orientation for some reason. So I don't quite know what to tell you. So let me at least show you what I was going to show you. So this book right here, which looks basically brand new, this is the book that I used when I did my cadaver in medical school. It's called Grant's Dissector. And this book, I mean, this isn't a copy, this is the actual one. And I always do stuff like this to my books. So it says from the library of Darin Wolfe, MD, and it's 2000. That's when I started medical school. So I've been looking at a lot of anatomy books again lately because I've been drawing anatomy. So this is the book that all medical students, well, I shouldn't say all, but almost all medical students look at when they're learning anatomy. And this is by an artist. His name, I think he's a physician and an artist. His name was Frank Netter. And so he went through and he does all this anatomy and he does it as oil paintings. And he was quite a good painter. So all of these are his works, and he's very famous. Although I'm not sure when he died, but it was, I think, before I even entered medical school. And then the other day, somebody actually bought this for me, and they sent it to me. This is Netter's, so this is a neuroanatomy coloring book. I haven't really got into this one yet. And unfortunately, I don't really have much of my art sitting around, but I was trying to draw every day. Let's see, I may have some. Now, this isn't as detailed as Netter. It's more cartoonish, but this was for a TikTok video I did. So this was, kidney, abdominal aorta, inferior vena cava, and adrenal gland. We were talking about adrenal cancers. And then this is pancreas, first part of the small intestine, and of course the spleen there. If you follow me on TikTok, you've seen these anyway. We were doing colon cancer, talking about ovarian cancer, and this was a draft up here. Sometimes that happens. And we got the heart, and I've got some other ones around here. We were talking about coronary artery disease. So I'm trying to do a lot more art, and in fact, today I have so when I do these are sketches. These are just little sketches. They're not anything important. But I sometimes I want to do things that I say can be a masterpiece. And I'm starting one today. It's probably going to take me a few days to draw it. And I don't know if it's going to ruin the fun when I actually unveil it. So if it turns out really well, I will sell prints of the drawing, and I will also, eventually I will sell the drawing itself, the original. But yeah, that's what I've been up to lately. I haven't done a live here in some time, and I'll figure out this orientation issue. I'm not really sure why. Some people say it looks good. Some people say it looks bad. And when I turn my camera, it's saying YouTube is literally giving me a message that says you can't do this. So I thought it was a screen lock. I checked that. That's not the case. So I don't know. I guess we'll figure it out. So does anybody have any questions or anything like that about anything? Usually medicine or pathology related. Or it could be careers, or it could be forensics, or it could be something like that. So Troublemaking Pups has joined us. We have 9 in here. I used to do lives a lot more frequently on here, usually about 2 or 3 a month. And then I had a period where I stopped doing lives on YouTube, and I really haven't done very many lives over at TikTok either, maybe like 2 in the last 8 weeks. So obviously not very active on the lives over there. But, I'm hoping to do a little bit more. I'd like to get on a schedule where I'm creating my content on a schedule. And it's a little more predictable. One of the things I was doing at TikTok was my videos, of course, I don't know if you follow me there, but I have hundreds of thousands of followers, something like almost 900,000 followers over there. And when I make a video, I might get 3,000 views or 4,000 in 24 hours. So I thought that if I post every single day, because they say if you post every single day, they'll push your videos out more. But as it turns out, I posted every day for a month. I didn't really want to, but I was doing it as an experiment. So I posted every single day for a month, and it did not make any difference. So my videos still don't get any views at TikTok. I'm not really sure why. Sometimes I think it's because I'm not sensational enough. I don't like to glorify deaths and things like that. So yeah, that's probably why. But if I was controversial, I would probably get a lot more views. I have a comment or a question rather that says, "Can I do a full video dissection?" So, in other words, can I do an autopsy or perhaps even dissect organs on YouTube? And the answer is, for me, it's going to be no, unless it's authorized by the family. There are some families who would do that, but I can't, because on here, they do not allow me to post very much stuff. I mean, for instance, if I were to show you today a real heart that's hypertensive, it's just, there's no blood and I've got a cross section, they will actually cover the video up and age restrict it. So the only way that I could post dissection videos would probably be if I had like my own website and paying subscribers. I could maybe consider that. But for a public YouTube video, they basically won't let me do it. And I really don't want to get my account banned here because I am this close to being monetized on this account. And so I'd like to get a little bit further on that. So yeah, I mean, I've been fighting for the last year to get this thing monetized. And it's weird because I'm going toward 12,000 followers here, and I hardly get any views here, and I hardly get any, like, obviously there's only 8 people in this live, which I'm happy about. But for some reason, my content just isn't pushed out very much. So guess that's just the way it is. All right, what else we got? Any questions or anything like that? What's the most, I guess, common caliber you see show up in your work? You know, it varies, but I mean, the 9mm handgun is going to be the most common. I mean, almost everybody who owns a gun that's shooting people or shooting themselves, it's a 9mm. We do see 38s a fair amount, but mostly 9mm. And then you'll see larger caliber handguns. You'll see 40, 44, 45. A little more common, but not quite as much. And shotguns are uncommon, not as common as rifles. And but yeah, that's the most common, is going to be like a 9mm. And we can't really tell when we look at the wound what caliber weapon has been fired. That is a major no-no in forensics, because sometimes a rifle can look like a handgun, and sometimes a handgun can look like a rifle, and so forth. But we only know the caliber under two circumstances. One is if we are able to recover a bullet. And we probably have bullets to recover in half the cases. And then we can have that bullet examined by ballistics, and they can tell you what caliber it was. The other situation or scenario is when the police actually will tell us what handgun was used. So, you know, if somebody was at the scene and they pulled the trigger on themselves, that's obviously very easy. But otherwise, if it's a homicide case and they have a suspect, you know, or even if they don't have a suspect, they will tell us what caliber shells were found at the scene. And that's helpful. So sometimes we'll have to ask what shells were found at the scene, and they'll say, oh, it looks like 9mm, and that helps us. So do we have ghost guns? You know, I've not had a case so far where a ghost gun has been confirmed to be used. Now, I haven't done a lot of homicides in the last half of this year because I cut back my work significantly, and I mostly doing work in the hospital right now for pathology. In fact, as we're sitting here, I'm texting with my assistant to ask him when he wants to do a case tomorrow. So that's kind of like what I'm doing, and it's a hospital case. So no ghost guns, and I hope that doesn't increase, because that's going to be rough. Is there an increase at different times of the year in gun-related incidents? Well, sort of. If you want to talk about gun-related homicides, those can occur at any time. But if we're talking about, you know, when is the peak, it's always in the summer. And I live in an area where we do have well-defined seasons. So in other words, if you're in South Florida and it's 80 degrees all the time, that really doesn't have an effect. But when you live where I live in central Indiana, you know, part of the year it's quite cold and people just tend to stay inside and they don't get out with their guns, you know, driving around and causing trouble as much. But we definitely start to see in April all the way up through September, we'll see a increase in gun-related deaths. And as far as suicides go, I don't really think, people will always say there's more suicides at the end of the year, or, you know, at the beginning of the new year, but I personally haven't seen that. Do I ever teach or speak at universities? Yeah, I used to do that a little bit. I haven't done that in quite a while. I used to go to speak to colleges, their forensic sections. Sometimes I would do them as a Zoom, or sometimes I would do them in person. And then when the pandemic really got going, I didn't really feel like going to universities and sitting in a room with 50 people and just having to do that. And so during 2020 and all the way through about 2022, I really didn't speak as much. I've been asked to recently, and in the last 6 or 8 months, but I've got so many court cases that I really don't have a lot of time to speak to universities. What is the most exciting thing about forensic medicine? Well, exciting, I mean, in terms of excitement, I mean, it's always probably the homicide cases. I would say, to be honest with you, the gunshot wound cases, when there's multiple, that is a very, very difficult puzzle for people to put together. So to be able to have a scenario where you have multiple gunshot wounds from different directions, and you're able to collect the bullets and match up the wounds and everything, and get the right wound pathways. I mean, that is probably one of the most difficult things to do. And as such, it's quite exciting as well, because when you've solved it. When you've solved the gunshot, and they can't be any other way. That's very exciting, because you've basically put together a very difficult puzzle. All right, what else is happening? Somebody says, like hunting season. I mean, I haven't had a single death in my career that occurred during hunting season. That's not true, actually. I did have one. And that was one of the strangest ones, because it was an accidental gunshot wound death. And I don't mean somebody shot somebody else, because actually you still call those homicides. They just aren't charged criminally. But I had one guy who had a gun. He was hunting, deer or whatever, and his gun accidentally discharged, and obviously it killed him. And apparently this particular rifle, was examined, and it had been known to have defect with, the safety and things like that. And so that one was called an accident. We actually don't call gunshot wound deaths accidents very often. They're either suicides or homicides most of the time. Suicides are obvious. Homicides can be, kind of intentional, like a murder. Or let's say you've got a guy who's, he's of age, he's in his 20s. And as a joke, he points the gun at his friend, not realizing that it's loaded, and the gun discharges and hits him. So clearly he didn't mean that, but at the same time, those are still called homicides usually, because the person handling the gun knows the risk of death is high enough that, to point a gun at somebody is an intentional act. And those cases are not charged very often criminally. I've had many unfortunate cases. They're called accidents in that situation, usually when they're children. And unfortunately, that is something that happens fairly often. I mean, I have at least one or two of those a year, where a little kid finds a gun, shoots somebody else, and they die. But, a 3-year-old with a gun, that's not really a homicide, because they don't know the severity of the risk when they point the gun at somebody. To them, it might be a toy, And Leah is here. Good to see you, Leah. What else we got here? Any other questions? I mean, I'm not, going to be on here for a real long time. I just had a few minutes. A lot of people have asked me if I've watched the autopsy of Jane Doe. I've had multiple, and I've not actually seen it. I am in a major movie watching phase. I get that way kind of in the fall, all the way through the winter. I start watching a lot of movies. So I will put that on my list, and I'll let you know if a lot of people have told me to watch it, but I haven't seen it. So I'll let you know what I think about it. Someone suggested that I should on my channel here, I should do reviews of movies from the perspective of a forensic pathologist. And I haven't gotten around to it, frankly. Have I ever read Barbara Butcher's book? Is it good? I only think of books by their title, so I'm gonna look this up and see if I read it. Books. No, I have not read any of her books. So there we go. We have a lot of kids with guns in west side of Michigan, kindergartners coming to school with guns. Wow, that's scary. And that's actually how these things happen, these unfortunate deaths. I always recommend a gun safe when you have a gun in the home. Children can be taught eventually the gun safety, but usually there's a time period when they don't fully understand. How's writing your new book going? So that's actually, it's not done, but also I have a couple of books that I'm working on, which is annoying because both of them are reasonably good subjects. And I really should just focus on one and knock it out and then go to the next one and knock it out. But I end up writing a little bit on one book, and then I'll go and I'll write a little bit on the other. And that's what my computer looks like. I've got like 6 different projects going on, but that's kind of always how I've been. Let me check here. And knives getting used a lot. Wow, remind me not to go to Western Michigan, Heidi. Although I have been over there once, but I don't make it up to Michigan too often, despite living in Indiana. I start to get a little nervous once I get up to South Bend. I used to have a lot of court in South Bend because I did, for about 1 calendar year, I did so many of their homicide cases. I mean, I basically did, I'd say probably 75% of their homicides. So I was up there. Yeah, Grand Rapids, I've been in that area. I have been in that area. The only thing I used to be jealous about in Michigan is that they get more snow than we do in Indiana, because when I was growing up, it seemed like we got a lot more snow, and now we don't get snow very often. And I love snow, but I'm also getting to the age where now I don't love snow as much. I think you reach a certain age and then you're done with snow. It's more fun when you're a kid, I think. Well, what else? Wisconsin and Minnesota equally, and it's hardly snowed at all this year. Well, supposedly in a El Nino year, this is an El Nino year, the snow totals are less in the northern parts, so it may be that way this year. Yeah, it's been 40 and 50 here as well. So we've had pretty similar weather. It is pretty cold today, but I looked and it's supposed to be like 50 plus on Christmas, which I hate. I have long, my whole life, I have wanted to have a blizzard on Christmas Eve, but it's never happened. So I keep wishing and wishing, and I hope it happens someday. It's very windy, and there's some snow flurries today. Today is the first day that we can actually see a little bit of snow on the ground, but I mean, it's just the tiniest amount. You couldn't even measure it. And it'll probably melt if the sun comes out for 5 minutes. All right, what else? We've been on here for 25 minutes, so I'll probably go to like 30 minutes maybe. But yeah, I have a little bit to do today, but I had a little break in my day and I thought, hey, I'm going to do a YouTube live. And then now there's this issue with the phone rotation. I probably just need to buy a camera, and then that solves the issue of whether or not I need to rotate the phone. I haven't read the report for Matthew Perry. I mean, I've read the summary, um, and I'll tell you, one of the things I'm considering doing is getting that report and reading it here. I won't do it at TikTok, but I'll do it here. Yeah. I heard it's 30 pages. I don't know if that's true. I really do not want to read 30 pages of autopsy report. So I haven't decided how I'm going to do that. If I'm going to just, because see, I read the whole JFK report. If you haven't seen that, you can go watch the JFK series that I did. But that report was only 6 pages. So that was not bad at all. But I heard somebody, Sanjay Gupta or somebody, said it was 30 pages. And I thought, man, I don't know who's writing a 30-page autopsy report, because, most of my reports are somewhere between 4 and 6 pages. Rarely they'll get to 10 or so if there's a bunch of gunshot wounds or something. But I don't know if 30 also includes the police reports and the tox report and stuff. That could actually make sense. Yeah. It says 30-ish pages, but some of it's unnecessary. So what I might do is have a look, and if I look like I can summarize it to the points where people need to know, because I mean, obviously, if his kidney weighs 150 grams, it does not matter to the case. It does not matter. So I don't need to read all that, but I'm considering it, and people have been begging me to do podcasts, and I just have not had time to sit down and record. It would probably make a good podcast. But yeah, if you ever want to know like how terrible human beings can be, read the comment sections on any report, on any case where a celebrity dies. There are really terrible human beings out there. And I am a strong believer, starting in 2024, that we need to leave those people behind. They're really bringing society down, and you'll know what I mean. But anyway, one more question. Why did I choose forensic medicine? I chose forensic medicine because it allows me to give closure to people, and it allows me to bring justice to families who need it, and legal cases. Anyway, I've got to my 30 minutes just about. So thanks for tuning in, the few of you, and I will, I'll talk to you next time. Maybe I'll have a little more time, and maybe I'll actually have a subject, something to read, so that you guys can not just watch me talk. All right, thank you.